Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy, and welcome to our training program overview. Today, I'm going to give you a taste of the different training programs that I've developed over the years, with the goal of helping you figure out which one might be a good fit for you. We're going to go through an overview knowing that you're going to have more questions, so I'll also invite you to schedule time with me to connect to talk about which option might be right for you. So here we go. I am going to share the PowerPoint in the show notes. So I'm going to probably skip over some things, but the PowerPoint will have everything. And you can always refer to the PowerPoint for additional details. So the very first training program that I developed is our Certified Caregiving Consultant Training, and that launched in 2016. And in essence, a CCC is a life coach for family caregivers and former family caregivers. And I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what our consultants have done since completing the training program. So for instance, one of our consultants is Barbara. She's based in a county in Ohio. Once she became certified, she reached out to her county and they hired her to provide support services for direct care workers. Barbara is also a direct care worker. She provides care for her sister. So she has been combining supportive family caregivers and supportive direct care workers. And interestingly enough, she came up with an idea of how we can use a concept I initially developed in 1997, which stages the caregiving experience, to tweak it to apply to direct care workers. So we're launching a training program for direct care workers next week, and that will be specific around how direct care workers have their own 6 caregiving stages, navigate the 17 caregiving systems, experience their own caregiving fatigues, and can create their own family emergency planning tool. So we pulled out family caregiving training that we've developed over the years and applied it to direct care workers. Okay, and then some of our consultants actually provide workshops and keynote sessions. So one of our consultants billed $4,000 in the month of November. She presented at a national caregiving conference that I used to host. Someone saw her there and then hired her to present 2 different workshops. Okay, and then our consultants are paid influencers, they're paid content providers, so they have developed a variety of streams for their revenue: one-on-one coaching, group coaching, influencer for different brands and organizations, workshops, and then providing content. One of our consultants was a paid content provider for AARP for a few years. So we also are experts. So we have provided reporters with interviews to share about what the family caregiver experience is like. So that's some examples, and we keep track, so you can always go to the Caregiving Years Training Academy to see where we've been mentioned lately. And so I think about what I do, and it's really about creating opportunities. And I started doing that in my work with family caregivers, and I really have expanded that into my work with individuals who want to make a difference in their service and support of family caregivers. But the truth is, it's not fun to do it alone. I could do it alone, but I don't want to. So I want others to join in this work, because we all know when you're in a personal caregiving experience, it's hard, it's lonely, it's painful. And I would tell you, when you start a small business, it's hard, it's painful, it's lonely. And the goal is that we support you with your work so that you're not out there on your own trying to figure it out. Okay. So we know that a personal caregiving experience is difficult. It's overwhelming. And the CDC issued some research, I suppose it was within the past year or so, that talked about what it's like. And we know that it's challenging. And one of the reasons that I developed the training programs is because I was really specific about what I needed as a family caregiver. And oftentimes people would try to fix me with a solution. And I thought, this caregiving situation is really complicated. It's not that I need to be fixed. It's that this situation is so complicated. I just really want to be understood. And that's really what the work is around throughout our training programs. And family caregivers need that kind of work. They need to be understood. They need someone who champions our causes. So I've developed solutions over the years so that it's the right resource at the right time. We have compassionate understanding to relieve the stress of caregiving. We cultivate caring conversations. We crave meaningful conversations during our caregiving experience because so many can't engage in a conversation with us because they're so overwhelmed by our problems. And a consultant or a support group leader gets it and can be part of that conversation without feeling overwhelmed. Okay, so I have developed programs that I know are successful because I want and put them out in the marketplace. So for instance, our events and our planning sessions are highly recommended. So it's this idea like that we want opportunities during our caregiving experience and then after our caregiving experience. So just quickly, a little bit about me. So I launched one of the very first online caregiving communities in 1996. I managed it for 24 years and then sold the content and the URL in order to focus on our training programs. So that's where we are right now. I forgot to update this. So I've been helping my dad since 2004. He just fractured his pelvis Sunday night. So we're working through hospital discharge for him and organizing care. My mom died in August of 2022, and I helped her for 7 years. She had Parkinson's. So oftentimes people confuse our training programs with, for instance, a training program for a CNA, someone who provides hands-on care. And that's not us. So we are all about cultivating that meaningful conversation, helping family caregivers create strategies and plans, helping them manage their stress, helping them cope with conflict. We've just moved into conflict resolution strategies, helping them make plans for their own future, helping them keep a life during a life of caregiving. And you know how much a caregiving experience interrupts life. Something else to keep in mind, our programs are specific to a family caregiving experience, not to a disease process. So I have studied the themes of a caregiving experience for 33 years. And so that's what I've really put into the training programs. They then can be personalized for a disease-specific family caregiver. So for instance, in our support group training, we talk about facilitation skills. How do you take care of a conversation with a group of individuals who are managing the worst time of their life? And then that can be tweaked to become a support group for those who are caring for a family member with dementia. So again, all of our programs are around that family caregiving experience. That's the common denominator. And then training program participants and graduates take that and then tweak and personalize based on their niche, which could be disease specific, relationship experience specific, or experience specific. Okay, so I've tried to offer opportunities for those who say, I just want to give back as a volunteer by leading a support group, for instance, or I really feel like I have learned so much, I want to start a small business. Okay, and then ultimately, I think of us as specialists in the practice of family caregiving. So it's been great to be international. So we've had training program participants from 8 different countries. And the goal is to help you make a difference. And that could be through leading support groups, adding services to your small business, or starting a small business. So over the years, I've added different levels. I'll just tell you quickly about the different levels. I'll go through the specifics of the evolution of the training program pretty quickly. I just want you to know that what I started in 2016 isn't where we are right now. And I'll tell you why that's important in just a minute. Okay. So we have master classes if, for instance, you're a financial planner, you're working with family caregivers, and you think, I just want to have more insights about what this experience is. We have a masterclass bundle, which includes the stages, the systems, the fatigues, and the house of cards. And that really gives you an insight into what family caregivers are coping with. So often as professionals, we meet with a family caregiver for an hour, but a family caregiver has years that they're bringing with them during that hour-long appointment. And a professional will gain that insight of what all those years might have been like through our master classes. Then we have a 1-hour on-demand training program that is our advocate training. And that helps you think through, what do I want to change about the personal caregiving experience, and how am I going to talk about it out in the world? And then we have 3 different facilitator trainings. If you want to start a support group for family caregivers, if you want to start one for those who are grieving, and if you're working in an organization and think, we have got a lot of family caregivers on staff, we need to better support them, then we have a support group for a facilitator in the workplace. So we just added 2 new training programs. One is our conflict resolution strategist, and I think of this as appropriate, for instance, for a financial planner, for an elder law attorney, for someone who works, for instance, in an area agency on aging. And family caregivers are calling about conflict and disputes. The strategist supports the family caregiver with plans to manage before, during, and after a conflict. The conflict resolution strategy is also part of our coaching programs, and I'll tell you about that in just a minute. We also have a caregiving guide, and the guide presents a workshop online and in the community that educates family caregivers about the 6 caregiving stages and the 17 caregiving systems. So now we're moving into, if you wanted to start a small business, you could become a specialist. And that's someone who becomes a virtual assistant for family caregivers to help manage tasks and to stay on track with a schedule. The specialist is appropriate if you've made it through the pragmatic stage of our 6 stages concept, meaning you've been through it all, you get that there's shocks and surprises, you have some ability to manage your stress. You feel like, okay, I've got the bandwidth to do this. You would set your own hours, and we help you create your niche and start a business. And then our coaching programs include a comfort care family coach who helps family caregivers when palliative care begins. So this is a very specific niche. If you found a lot of meaning in helping someone at the end of their life, a comfort care family coach training program might be right for you. I launched the comfort care family coach program after my mom died because I saw how much isn't there to support the family caregiver as someone is reaching the last year or couple years of their life. And then our certified caregiving consultant is really the caregivingologist, someone who has insights about all 6 stages and has planning tools to help a family caregiver regardless of where they are in their experience. And then an educator, someone who can train guides as well as deliver workshops around the stages, the systems, and our daily healing plan. Okay, so quickly, I'm just going to tell you what I've done over the years with the training. And I tell you this because if you're going to start a small business, I want you to know that where you start isn't where you stay. But you have to start. And so I only have been able to add and update and improve all these programs because I put it out there. Oftentimes when we're in a small business, we think, it has to be perfect before I put it out there. It only gets perfect after you put it out there. So after I put it out there, I was able to say, oh my gosh, we need something like a tool. So that's when I developed our wheels. Our facilitators, our coaches, and our consultants, as well as our guides, use these caregiving wheels. And there's probably about 50 of them. And sometimes I tell myself, stop, do not create any more wheels. But they're so helpful. I use them for myself all the time. The wheels also are part of our plans. So for instance, we have a family emergency plan. I've created wheels that are part of a family emergency plan. Okay. So I added the master classes over the years. We have different services that the consultants can offer. I've continued to add master classes. I created something called a daily healing plan. We have assessments, one that's an 8-question assessment. And then there's planning tools that the coaches and consultants use. So once someone is diagnosed, we have a diagnosis plan to help that family caregiver figure out the impact. Okay. So there's different packages in the consultant training, and I'm happy to talk about that if anybody has questions. And then again, the Comfort Care Family Coach was added last year. And I added the 17 caregiving systems in the fall of 2022. During our consultant training, we talk about system navigation. And I started out with, I think, 5 or 6. And when we got to that portion of the live consultant training where we talked about system navigation, I would show a slide that had 6 different systems. And then I would say, what's missing? And then the consultants would start telling me what's missing. So I kept track. And then when I was talking to family caregivers, I started listening for the systems they started talking about, like, for instance, the educational system. And that could involve a child with special needs and working through the school system. And then after my mom died, I had a little more bandwidth and I started thinking, wait a minute, how many systems are there? And when I counted, I initially counted 13, and then I thought, oh no, that's not it. There's 15. And then I looked again and I thought, you know what? There's 17. And then I made myself stop. So system navigation is very complicated. And supporting a family caregiver through that system navigation is invaluable. Okay. So this year we're going to break out accreditation and certification from the training. So for instance, you would take the training through the Caregiving Years Training Academy, and then you would be certified through a nonprofit called the Caring Board. And that's for end of 2023. So people often ask me, well, why would I become certified? I had been supporting family caregivers for about 14 years in 2004 and had been offering online support groups for 8 years. And I really started thinking, am I doing this right? Am I really serving them? I probably should look into adding to my skills. So at that time, the only thing that felt like it fit what I needed is life coach training. I didn't want to be a nurse. I didn't want to be a social worker. And really, I didn't want to extend my education by 2 years. I wanted something that felt like I could do it within a period of time that felt like, okay, I can do this in 6 months. I want to do it. So I took life coach training. And in the consultant and comfort care family coach training, I added in what I took with me from life coach training. And it was really this communication strategy that reduces stress. So for me, I think you look to become certified because you want to ensure that you're really up to date with your skills and knowledge. It's also how you separate yourself within the marketplace. You also are accountable to an organization for maintaining your certification. And I also think it helps you face your fears. If you're thinking about starting a small business, it is really intimidating. And what I've added in the consultant and family care coaching programs are a way for you to start facing your fear during the training program. So you go out and practice delivering one-on-one sessions. You go out and host meetings. You go out and create a course. I thought people would do that after the training. That was one of the things that I learned. But people waited. And then at the end of the training, when I thought they would go out and start to do stuff, the fear just got in the way because it is so intimidating. So we do that during the training, and you do it with our support. So that accountability to actually do it is really, really helpful. So oftentimes people will say, well, what do I need? And the qualifications are that you have a personal or professional caregiving experience, or have a true interest in supporting family caregivers. And it could be that you've been working with family caregivers, you haven't had that experience, then I would consider you to be a professional with caregiving experience. And then it's helpful if you've had a personal caregiving experience that you have peace about it, because you're going to show up to support others. It's important that you show up feeling full. That way you won't have any regrets or intermingle your story with a client's story. So I'd love to say this is not hard work. Wouldn't that be fabulous? But it is hard work. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay, because the hard work is where we really start to gain insights and solutions that I don't think would be possible if it were easy. If it were easy, I wouldn't have developed all these additional pieces to the training program. I would have still offered in 2023 what I developed in 2016. But because it was hard, I kept digging and digging. What can I do to make this better? What can I do to improve this? What do the consultants need after the training program that they're not receiving right now? And so it got better, it got better, it got better. And we do meet as consultants and coaches every month to talk out how we're doing, what we're trying, what's been successful. We do offer regular meetings and workshops and conferences, and our consultants and coaches and facilitators participate in these events. And it's just a really nice way to get your feet wet with delivering workshops. Okay, so there's what people say. And then we have some special initiatives with our consultants and coaches. We're collecting stories about system navigation. We're going to release an observational assessment for family caregivers to complete when they're in the emergency room to tell us what it's like. And then we've got some pilot programs. Okay, so then I wanted to break it out into what would you look to if you wanted to actually become something like a volunteer? If you wanted to start a support group that you host at your local library once a month, if you wanted to do workshops online to help family caregivers find their footing within the stages and the systems. So these would be the programs that could help you when you want to do more volunteer work. You want to be a service, for instance, through your house of worship. So it's starting a support group, it's becoming a guide. And again, that's when you deliver a workshop. And the workshop is the 6 stages and the 17 caregiving systems. And we teach you how to deliver the workshop while also including interactive exercises and having helpful conversations with attendees. Okay, and then if you're thinking, I want to start a small business, the specialist, the coach, the consultant are the training programs to look at. The consultant training leads into the educator training. And as an educator, you can earn additional revenue by training guides. Okay. So there they are. So what questions might you have? Yes, and I will actually follow up, Kim, with an email with a link to the PowerPoint so that you have all this.
Thank you. Such great information here.
Yeah, so what is like speaking to you? Which are the programs?
Actually, because there are so many, I think that's where, and thank you for giving this overview. I'm still kind of contemplating. I already lead a support group of other caregivers, and I wanted to basically go beyond that. And I've done kind of just as a peer and a friend, have talked through things with people, but sometimes I kind of want to think, oh, maybe there are systems or questions I haven't thought about asking. But I also am thinking about launching my own small business to help others and bring together a lot of different supports and resources. So that's where I thought, well, hey, it'd be great to take some training. It's interesting you mentioned life coaching, because I actually just last year hired a life coach and found that very transformative. And that's what I want to do for other caregivers. So I love your story. It really resonates.
Yeah. And if you wanted to start off with a small business and you wanted to start off with not a huge investment, you can
Mhm.
start with the specialist. And that is where you start to help with tasks and to-do lists, start earning some extra money. And then that could help you move into the coach or consultant training.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in the coach or consultant most, because I don't want to personally, I have a digital marketing background. I used to be a content marketing director. And so I see my vision of helping others online and creating Zoom, because I already do the Zoom monthly support calls. I just want to expand upon my offering that I'm doing for free. But then I wanted to go a lot deeper and really help transform lives. So I'm not really clear the difference between the family coach and caregiving consultant. Could you explain those a little bit more?
Sure. So I consider to be the comfort care family coach a very specific niche.
Oh, that's right. End of life. That's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think about that when palliative care starts.
Yeah.
And then helping that family caregiver with palliative care, support around palliative care, hospice care, and then after caregiving ends.
Right.
And what's interesting is that there often isn't an easy transition, for instance, from palliative care to hospice or from just regular care to hospice. I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. So with my dad, he's 91 and he fractured his pelvis on Sunday night. So he's been in the hospital. And I had them assess him for hospice. Now, you would think he's 91, he has a terrible time swallowing. So he's already at risk for aspiration pneumonia. And
Yeah.
he's got a fracture in his pelvis that it's just going to heal on its own, hopefully. But he doesn't qualify for hospice.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah. So I have been very proactive about integrating services into my parents' care. So we had already been using palliative care for my dad. Palliative care stopped in January because they said he didn't qualify for palliative care any longer. So whenever I think of a service like palliative care ending, it's just a pause. I know we're going to go back or we're going to go forward to the next level, which is hospice. So anyway, my dad will be discharged and it'll be home health, home care, palliative care, my niece, my nephew, my sister, and myself and my brother.
Yeah.
It's never just an easy straight line.
Right.
So that comfort care family coach can help with the really specific pieces around palliative care, which means that you have different decisions,
Yeah.
you have different ideas around treatment, and you have different interactions with family and with your caree. And then you move into hospice. And the thing with hospice, so we had my mom on hospice last year, is that it's helpful, but it's still limited. And you're still coming up with questions. You still need guidance. There's huge anxiety once you start administering morphine. So the coach can be that supportive presence. So in addition to hospice services, you also have the support of a coach who can get really specific around funeral planning with you, end of life issues, and then after caregiving ends. So in the 6 stages model, the comfort care family coach is very specific with the transitioning and the Godspeed family caregiver. So stages 5 and 6. I guess actually the end of stage 4 or the middle of stage 4 when you've moved into palliative, and then through 5 and 6. So almost like the second half. With a consultant, a caregiving consultant, it's anywhere at any point the consultant can help that family caregiver.
Yeah, I think consultant might be a better fit for me.
Okay, right. Because you do have to have, I think, almost like a passion around that palliative care, hospice care aspect.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, my parents have passed, unfortunately, and with my father's case, he was also in his 90s, and so I had no experience, and we were so thankful to have hospice care, but it was a whole new animal for us. So I totally relate to what you're saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And if you're a consultant, you can start helping that family after there's a diagnosis.
Right.
So we have an after the diagnosis planning tool you can use. You can help them with family emergency planning, with a recovery plan. So recovery after a crisis or a bad day, a respite in place plan to help find that space in the home that's just for the family caregiver. You can also help with, if you're interested in conflict resolution, we also have a conflict resolution piece as part of that consultant training. So the consultant is all the stages.
Yeah. I noticed on your website, I'm sorry to dominate the conversation. I had one last question.
Yeah, go for it, go for
I
it.
saw on your website you have different levels for the consultant. You have bronze, silver, and
Yes,
gold. Can
yes.
you walk us through the differences? I mean, I
Sure.
see it on your website, but since you're here live.
Yeah. So forgive me, here we go. Okay. So the bronze is really for someone who feels like I can start a small business, or I already have a small business and I want to add services. So, for instance, there are some who might be a geriatric care manager, for instance, and they want to become a consultant. The bronze level would be great. You have experience marketing. You have experience with putting a message out into the world. So the bronze would probably be appropriate for you. You know what, there's a typo on there and I'll fix that before I put it out there. So the bronze is a 2-month program.
Okay.
And then the silver is 3 months. And the silver includes our facilitator, our educator, and our consultant training. And that takes 3 months. In addition, you have additional support from our mentors and you have additional support from marketing. And then the gold is a 6-month program, and you become a master caregiving consultant. You write a book and you develop a workshop that's been approved for CEUs. So there's more coaching from me, there's more one-on-one time with me, and you at the end of your 6 months, you leave with more. And you also have to demonstrate an additional level of expertise as a master caregiving consultant. So the bronze is just the consultant training. The silver is a package that includes marketing support and a couple coaching calls with me. And then the gold is where you're like, I want to really challenge myself to become a master caregiving consultant. I want to write a book. I want to have a workshop that's been approved to offer CEUs for nurses, certified senior advisors, and certified dementia practitioners. And that's the 6-month program.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your questions. Those were great questions.
I have a question kind of piggybacking on where she was just asking you. Do you, as the person coming to take the class, have to have a particular degree, background? Okay, good. I just did a master class on entrepreneurship. And with that, she was looking at, everybody in the group had a different aspect of what they wanted to do. So it sounds like what you're offering would then fine tune for someone who wants to do it in this field of caregiving.
Yes. There's a slide where I tell you what it is that you want to have, and heck if I can find it, but but it's basically a personal caregiving experience, or you work with family caregivers. So there isn't a requirement with a degree. And it's that personal caregiving experience. I mean, that's your degree.
I've
We all-
had that.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, really, we all have a PhD in our caregiving experience. So you already have that. And it's really just having peace about your caregiving experience and having an open mind and being curious about others and their situations.
It's like I'm already doing this. So it's like when you said offered this, I'm like, maybe now I can add the title to it. So, because I do it even in the grocery store. I'm finding myself, talking to people and offering the resources and all. And
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like a way to kind of rein it in and make it a little more professional.
And we teach you or equip you with planning sessions that you can start charging clients for.
That
And
was another thing, because I was wondering, now, like I said, I'm doing all of this, but who do I bill? How do I do it? And, and especially if you don't want to do it at the expense of the families that you're helping. Like Lisa said, she started a support group. I've been doing support groups like for about 8 years and other things. And it's like what I'm doing keeps growing and growing, but it's like a little here, a little there, and nothing cohesive. And this sounds like I can rein it all in and, put it all in one package.
so there was some research that came out last fall, and they researched family caregivers, and something like 90% of family caregivers did not know of a company they could reach out for support or help. And then another 80% said, I want to pay for products and services that will help me. And I know that we feel like, oh my gosh, a family caregiver has so much going on. I'm not sure that they're going to pay for a coach or a consultant. And I will tell you, they are already paying for a different type of coach or consultant. So for instance, Kim talked about she had hired a life coach. I know that family caregivers have been looking for something specific in terms of a professional they can hire. And so they used to go to life coaches to hire or to work with a therapist. They are looking for a consultant and a coach. And if they can find someone with that personal caregiving experience who gets it, that is an investment they want to make. We also help you figure out what's the package. You don't have to sell a client into using you every week. They could use you quarterly. They could use you for a crisis. They could start using you after a diagnosis. They've established the relationship with you, and then you let them know when to reach out for additional sessions. So maybe when caregiving first starts, that family caregiver uses you annually to update their family emergency plan. And then during a crisis, they use you for a week. One of our consultants, for instance, has a package where it's 30 days of support, which can start at day of hospitalization for a caree. So over a period of 30 days, that consultant is available 24/7 for emailing and texting, and it's a flat fee. And for 30 days, I think it's $100. As a consultant, you're not available 24/7. You're just going to respond during your office hours. Let's say it's 8 to 6, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. But I'll tell you, as a family caregiver sitting in the emergency room at 2 a.m., I would have given anything to have a coach or consultant I could text, just so I told someone, I am here. This is what happened. I don't need an immediate response, but I know my consultant is going to reach out to me during that next business hour window.
Denise, something you just said triggered that that also can add credibility to when a caregiver speaks, especially at 3 a.m. in the ER. I mean, I knew what I was talking about with the situation, and this young kid says, "Oh, I guess I should turn you over to social services." I said, no, I think I need to turn you to social services because what you're about to tell me to do is going to be harmful to my family. And he kind of, looked back and I said, so you go ahead and discharge her. And I will then write and let Medicare know that you put this 90-something-year-old woman out comatose for the second time in 2 weeks. And all I asked was go ahead and discharge her and put her gurney in the hallway in the alcove, and I'll sit there with her till she wakes up. And he came back, never mind, the doctor says keep her. And it's those kind of experiences that have made me continue, even though my caregiving is over, has made me continue to reach out to, to people, because I'm not the only one who's had to experience that. And I know it.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
But I learned something that could help. I was careful. I had to be careful because sometimes I would hear families in the next cubicle, and I'd say, you don't have to do that or something. And I had to be careful because I didn't want the hospital to get at me. But there's so much going on with family caregivers, and especially in underserved communities. They don't even know that anything exists, that they can be their own advocate. And I've talked to you before. You talk to so many people, but when I got introduced to you, I was like, oh my gosh, here's somebody who understands what we're talking about. And how do we continue helping families? And this is just exciting to me, that there's maybe a way to really make it a little more available in certain communities.
Yes. There's an expertise you develop in system navigation that is so helpful, because the system is not going to take the time to educate the family caregiver about how to work within its system. But you can take the time to educate the family caregiver about how to work within the system and what to question, what to ask for, when to say we need another way. And it's very powerful to connect to someone that has the inside information. Mention something. We do have payment plans for the consultant, the 3 levels of consultant training: bronze, silver, gold. There's a 12-month, 4-month, or pay in full. And the Comfort Care Family Coach also has a 4-month or pay in full payment plan. I'm going to stop sharing just to get to the very end, so I won't put you through watching me scroll through that, so that I can tell you how to connect with me. So something that I think is helpful is to actually schedule time with me if you'd like to just tell me what it is that you want to do, and then I can help you figure out which program might be able to help you do that. So you're welcome to schedule time with me. And the link is on the slide, and it's calendly.com/caregiving/training. And you're welcome to schedule time with me. And I'll share the slides, absolutely. What I'll do is I'll send everybody a follow-up email tomorrow. I'll have a link to the recording if you want to watch the recording again. And I'll include a link to the PowerPoints so you can download the PowerPoints. And I'll also include a link to scheduling time with me if you'd like to schedule time on my calendar. Okay, so we're going to close our archive, our recording for now. Those who have joined me live, we're going to do a raffle. So stay with me if you're live. For those of you who are watching the archive, thank you for watching. I look forward to connecting, and I'd love to have you in a training program. Thanks so much for your interest. Okay. All right, and if you're here live, stay with me.